Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Aldea. I'm the creative director of of the Art of Movie Making Film Fest. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us for tonight's Effects and Animations webinar, from the people on the panel to the people who are tuning in to see it. It's a really great turnout, and we're happy you are all here. So TAMMFF, or the Tammies, or the Art of Movie Making Film Festival, is the only film fest 100% dedicated to shining the spotlight behind the scenes in film, TV, and games. Our unique awards categories include Best Props, Stunt Performance, Set Design, Builds, Puppets, Makeups, and more. Anything creative and behind the scenes, we're always looking to showcase through film in our film fest. For more than just an annual awards, and provide networking and educational opportunities throughout the year, like webinars such as this, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Submissions for this year's awards are actually closing in 2 days. So we're already populating our screening schedule. So get your submissions in before it's too late. Or if you know people who have work that could be submitted to these categories, please send them along. Thank you to all of our volunteers. We really couldn't do this without any of you. And everyone who's attended our live shows, your support in behind the scenes and creativity. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and like the video. I'd like to introduce Ben Christopherson, our executive assistant, to introduce our webinars, the people speaking, and our guests. He is also an actor, a sound tech working in the film industry, who makes it his passion to bring up artistic industries and people within them. So I'm going to hand it over to Ben.
Hello. Thank you, Aldea. It's a pleasure. Now, anyone with questions, feel free to put them into the chat. But remember to be professional and courteous to our guest speakers. Note, all of us here took time out of our day to bring this to you for free. So thank you to everyone who is here now. Let's just start off with the introductions. Jordan Doodle Best. He is an Atlanta-based artist specializing in character illustration and design. His style is inspired by 80s design and 90s hip-hop culture and animated aesthetics from Looney Tunes to 90s anime. He creates confident characters that celebrate Black identity and culture, and work promotes self-acceptance, ownership of unique interests, and unapologetic personality. He's known for his innovative, unpredictable designs that push creative boundaries, and I mean, just the greatest photo ever, like right there. Also, the moniker of Doodle, incredible. And do you have anything else to say for yourself, Jordan?
No, that's it. Great to be here. Glad everybody made it, and hoping for a great panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here. Then moving over, we have Midian Crosby. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
Awesome. Fantastic. They've been in the industry for over 20 years as a professional artist in film and media. They are the department head specializing in practical and special effects, prosthetic makeup, specialty costuming, and prop making. They are the founder of Monster Makeup FX Studio, established in 2010. And her credits include Red One, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Stranger Things Season 4, Scare Tactics 2024, and The Walking Dead. They are also a director and producer of short films with a personal passion for horror and sci-fi genres, which is pretty incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you have anything else to say for yourself?
No, I think that's good for now. Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Amazing. Well, fantastic work so far. And then moving over, we also have, is poor Marty here?
Hello.
Hello. Awesome. He is a dynamic creator blending humor with experimental tech, XR, and animation, known for sharing the creative process, including glitches, shortcuts, and happy accidents with his audience. He develops quirky alternative universe animated characters and offbeat digital experiences. He embraces learning in public, often figuring things out live as part of his creative journey, and invites curiosity and playfulness into every project, making technical and experimentation accessible and fun.
Hmm.
Also has a lovely space background, let me say.
Yes, yes, because you don't need to see what's actually back there.
So-
Um, yeah, that's all. I work in music, so a lot of the professional work I do is for rappers and other types of musicians.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again. And then moving on, we have Ryan Bryson. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, you did, man. You did. Most
Awesome.
people say
Fantastic.
Brisson, but you said Bryson. It was good. Good.
Sweet. Awesome. So glad. He's award-winning writer, director, and author with International Film Festival honors. He is the
Yes.
creator of acclaimed books, short films, commercials, music videos, and comics, known for crafting engaging narratives across multiple media platforms. He is currently expanding his storytelling into the world of animation, and he is recognized for his boundless imagination and passion for innovative storytelling.
I mean, if you're asking me, do I need to add anything? The way you said that, it made me sound pretty cool. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Well, I mean, just from our conversation so far, you seem like a pretty cool guy. I'm not even gonna lie. So, yeah, thank you so much again for being here as well. And then
Not a
last
problem.
but certainly not least is Chris Bivins. Bivins?
Yep, you got it right.
Fantastic. I'm so glad. I'm getting it down. Let's go.
Yeah.
He is multidisciplinary artist specializing in animation, character design, and visual storytelling. He began his career in video slot machine gaming, contributing to over 50 titles. He's provided storyboards, concept art, and visual development for projects like the Belko Experiment, DC's Stargirl, uh, and Marvel's Snap. He's worked with major brands and studios, including IBM, Universal Pictures, Passion Pictures, MGM, DC, and Marvel. And he graduated from the Art Institute of Atlanta with a BFA in Media Arts and Animation, aspiring to launch an original animation boutique blending Western storytelling with Japanese visual styles.
Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, that is our lineup for today. If you can't really ask for much better than that so far, thank you again all for being here. And are you all right if I just get started into the questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. So this is just going to be a blanket statement. Whoever wants to answer first, just pop into there. How and where did you guys get started?
The first thing I animated was about 2 years ago. It was for a client. It was for a client, and it actually was based off of a comic that I did. The first actual comic that I created. Um, I would say professionally. It was for a client, and he loved it. And we went around to, I want to say, about five. I think we just went to our sixth Comic Con this year. Um, and getting a fan base, creating a fan base with that. They wanted to create marketing material, so I was able to go and create. We're working with different artists as well as I'm sorry about we're working with different artists to actually create an overall process. Going in storyboarding from beginning to end, it was pretty amazing. I never got a chance to actually work at that capacity with actually turning stills into motion. So seeing that come to life, it was amazing to me. And it just made me want to push the bar. It made me want to push the bar even further. Which I want to say by the end of this year, I'll probably I mean, it's taking a long time, but I'll probably have my first like 5 to 7 minute motion.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredibly well done.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Could I ask, what are some of the most important things that add to the movie making process? The sort of the uh, really like the thing about animation
Mhm,
that gives you the drive for it, because it has this almost boundless potential for
mhm,
creativity. And
mhm.
like you said earlier, I know you want to push Black faces and ideas forward, but why animation specifically?
I feel like that's I'm not gonna say fully untapped, but it's a pretty untapped artistry for for being able to see that on a big screen. I would love to be able to sit down one day and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. I watch Dragon Ball Z. I still watch Dragon Ball Super until they go ahead and drop the most recent. But I'm looking forward to being able to look on the screen one day and I'm looking at my own anime on TV and I'm watching it with my son.
Hmm.
Um, Probably at that time he'll probably have another brother or sister at that time, but so I would say my children. But that's the goal for me. To be able to see that, and create something like what a Akira Toriyama did. I mean, I think that's a goal, man. That's a dream. To be able to do so. That's my vision. For where I'm looking for.
Amazing. Incredible. Thank you so much.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem.
Yeah. Could I move it to another guest speaker just so that we can hear from other people's perspectives on where they got started with animation?
I'll go.
Yeah,
So
I'll jump in.
I can go.
Rock,
Or-
paper, scissors. Nah, you go ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll go after you. Go ahead.
Um, geez, when did I get started? I think I think the last time I answered this, I would say it was with like this little Uzi animation that I made. But now, like when I think about it, I was like I like to call myself a professional dabbler. And one of the things that I was doing for a long time was like shooting music videos and stuff. And then I got a job. I was like, I gotta get actual work because I got like bills to pay and stuff. And I got a job at SiriusXM, started just, while I was a motion graphics artist. So I had like, I was making GIFs and editing videos for them. And I was like, I want to try my hand at some 2D. I went to school for animation. I'm doing motion graphics. So, I started scribbling. And that's actually how I got toward making the little Uzi. I think it was called Exo Tour Life. He,
Mhm.
it was a really bad animation. And that was something that I really was like, I'm gonna play on me not being good because I just started really getting into 2D animation. So I'm just gonna say, this is, SHI Sugar Honey Iced Tea animation, So I was like, yeah, this is trash. But what ended up happening was somebody from his label found it and the rest is history. And I work with Interscope now, so I do all of their motion graphics. But
Fantastic.
that's it was a shitty animation. Excuse my French.
Um, and what sort of moving past like just starting off the shitty animation, what kind of like pushes you forward to do it now? I know that you do it as a career, but or partially, what's sort of the passion behind animation?
For me, it's fun, and I think professionally, it's like I get to do all these things for these artists that I wouldn't like as I'm older. It's really hard to say look up to, but artists that I really enjoy listening to. But I think creatively for myself, I think it's just fun creating the words, new worlds. Ryan said.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Could you restate that really quick? Oh, I think Your microphone might be cutting out. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I can hear you now.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Yes, you should be.
Okay. So Ryan was saying how he wants to do like a curatorium or get it, Dragon Ball Z and all that. My thing is I want to do like Star Wars, and create like this big universe that just has, we could do something over here, we could do something over there, but it's all part of this big universe. And I think working towards that. And then the other thing is like, Adult Swim is such a staple in my life that I'm stuck between like building series that work in a world like Star Wars or a Marvel, but then putting it on displaying it like Adult Swim, creating a place where you can watch those kinds of things as you please. And just the idea of working towards something that is like I've been working on it almost 10 years now, and it's every year, every new tool just helps me get closer. So that's really what like keeps me going. Is like, ooh, I'm getting closer to my master plan. It's
New tools. What kind of new tools are out there that you're using to push your career forward?
oh my goodness. So I maybe going on two, 2.5, 3 years now, I finally got on Blender. And I was a big Cinema 4D guy. That's Maxon Cinema 4D, 3D softwares. And I was like, I'm not going into the hype. I kind of stay away from the hype. Everybody was like Blender, 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 Blender. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. It's free. I don't gotta pay for anything extra. So I just dove in and I was like, oh my God, I almost unlocked like a secret ability in being able to just make the things that I want, and I don't have to like I felt stuck. I was using Cinema 4D. I was trying to get into Unreal Engine, and it was just these tools are great, but if you don't know how to use them in those specific ways, you kind of get stuck. And I got stuck with them. But when I got to Blender, I was able to like almost unlock creativity that I wasn't able to access before because I was so stuck. And that really like kind of sent me down this like creative path. And then just recently, I guess I got into AI and like um not only like the generative AI, but like there's this other thing that they're calling vibe coding. It's basically just like the same thing as generative, like making pictures, but instead of just pictures, you can make websites, apps, interactive content. So I've just been building like I've been built like I built my own AI tool where you can like that makes the complicated part of dealing with AI. It helps make it easier so other people can just use it and whatever. But yeah, these tools just make it so much easier to like create things. Like one of the things that the XR portion of all the things that I do, I like to use them as like ways to expand the world. So like, you know how if Star Wars has a new season coming up, they might have an activation in Times Square where you see stormtroopers, or like a Disney World where you have the actual stormtroopers walking around and stuff like that. So using these tools to just create not just the content that you watch, but also creating the experiences that you can exhibit in the world and all that kind of stuff. So like the tools are actually like creating like an extra bubble of stuff that you can make.
Yeah, just widening the horizon as much as possible so that you can like narrow down eventually the actual techniques for what you're doing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, uh, that's really incredible. Thank you so much. I mean, in terms of, I want to just dive more into it, but I'd like to hear from everybody else just to how they got started, and then I'll expand the questions
Hmm.
out for more detail. But I know, Chris, you were talking about wanting to get into it. So, where did you get your start?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned in the last panel that we had, it just started as a kid, just wanting to kind of recreate what I saw on TV, all the cartoons and comic books and games that I was playing and reading and just kind of absorbing because I was just like dead set in front of the TV, like, that was my life, that was my childhood, me and my brother. But I always had a passion for drawing, for art. I was always drawing on notepads and, drawing in school, obviously getting in trouble, not paying attention, when I should have been following the lessons. And it's just I just knew it was just always something that was just always compelling me to, just to keep going, keep doing it. And I just got, just love and joy out of just creating. And then just like took a chance, went to school for animation, and decided I wanted to make it, not just a passion but an actual career. And went to our Institute of Atlanta, met most of my friends that I've known 20 years going on now, since I graduated. And we kind of all have a collective circle, or always checking in on each other. And I think that kind of keeps me motivated, and kind of keeps that passion going when you see other people that you were kind of in the weeds with, in the trenches essentially, in school. And everyone's got their own careers, their own lives, and families, and all this stuff. And this person's working on this movie or this game. And like, okay, well, maybe maybe I can pull something together. Maybe they can bring me along. But you're just you're just celebrating each other's successes as well. So I think that's always kind of kept me motivated and passionate, just to keep moving and keep pushing forward. And again, just making it more than just past just a hobby. It's again like making it a career. And it has its ups and downs, for sure. But this is what you love doing. This is what you feel like your purpose is. So you always want to fulfill that. So that's my journey.
Incredible. And especially the aspect of community bringing each other up. That's an amazing story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a really big part of it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And sort of how have you developed over time in terms of like from your start into where you are now? How did that process look like? I know that your friends definitely brought you up, but what kind of struggles have you faced going through it?
Well, the biggest one I would probably say is, insecurity, imposter syndrome. You kind of have that, like, well, I don't deserve it because I'm not good enough, and that sort of thing. But again, that keeps, you kind of have to move past it, and just kind of keep moving and keep going. And when you come out on the other end, you're like, oh, okay, I could have did better here, could have did better here. And so you kind of sort of a little bit of self-doubt as well. But that's something that everyone always goes through. And I think it's taken me a long time to realize that and understand that, that it's not just me, other people deal with that as well. But I have to work better on just having more self-confidence and self-assurance. And again, just reminding myself, like, why I wanted to get into this in the first place. And just you just, that drive in you is just just keeps you going, keeps you motivated. Um but yeah, I think in my experience working in the art studio I work at, slot gaming, it wasn't my first like career goal, necessarily, something I kind of fell into. But it was art related, it was gaming. I'd never stepped into a casino like when I first started, working there. But just the people that I've met and over the years, and I'm still friends with to this day from from day one. That sense of camaraderie and everyone kind of from different disciplines as well. Like we have sound guys, we have engineers, and even game design, which is something that's completely outside of the scope of what I can
Eh,
comprehend.
jangan jangan yang lain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but like everyone has that same goal of like creating that product and making everyone using their own strengths essentially to make the best game that we possibly can. And there's always back and forth. There's obviously there's politics, office politics involved in that as well, and that's the part that you kind of have to kind of sort of push through at times. But at the end of the day, like when the game is done and you're kind of going through everything and like, oh man, like the way the animation came out on this, like, oh man, this is so great. And the way that sound kind of like really brings everything together. And it's just all of that stuff just kind of just makes it worth it at the end of the day. So yeah.
Incredible. Nice. Amazing. And just a final note. I know that you said that you weren't necessarily planning on being into this gaming scene, but you sort of fell into it, and it's still an artistic endeavor that's really, like, in a way, decently fulfilling. Where do you sort of see yourself moving on in the future, or any dreams of like pushing yourself forward?
Yeah, I mean, just even like what Ryan and Martin said, just creating my own animation, my own Star Wars, my own X-Men, Avengers, Dragon Ball Z, all that stuff. I consume all that stuff all day long, and I'm constantly watching. Like I watch Yu Yu Hakusho, like I watch the whole series because that's like my favorite anime. So like
Absolutely.
just watching it, and like, oh man, okay, you're enjoying the story, you're enjoying the animation, and and the nostalgia of it, but you also you're like, man, I want to create something like this. I want someone else to have that same feeling that I have watching this, and and meeting other people, and like you kind of daydreaming of being at conventions and panels like this, and like, oh man, I really love that thing that you did, and it's because I'm that person all the time. If I meet my hero, so I'm like, I just kind of get like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I love you. Like you shaped my world. You shaped everything that I've kind of strived for, and everything I'm passionate about. You kind of have that kindred spirit with someone. Of course they're like, who's this weirdo? But it's like, well, you had to have been there all the 40 years that I've existed on this world. Yeah, but that's always something that, yeah, again, like I just that's kind of like the next step. Like I want to shoot for the stars essentially. So we only have one life to live. So
Absolutely. There's only one way to go if you shoot for the stars, and that's
yeah,
up.
shit, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Who else would like to go next?
I can go.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, Midian, where did you get your start, and how did that develop over time?
So I grew up in the wonderful time of the 80s and 90s for film and TV. It was a spectacular time, and I had parents that let me watch literally anything. So I saw Michael Jackson's Thriller premiere when I was 6 years old. I saw John Carpenter's The Thing when I was 9. And there was a particular scene in that movie where I was so horrified, so mesmerized. And I did that, like, that, how did they do that? I just, it blew my mind. And then I had an older brother who showed me a lot of like Fangoria magazines and different various magazines on the subject of special effects. And it would kind of demystified some of it, but I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. They're really there's no film there. So I didn't know anybody that did it. I didn't know it was something that you could like do as a career. I just thought it was really cool. And I was always mesmerized by film and film effects and creature effects. And specifically, like some of my favorite stuff is like The Dark Crystal and Legend and Labyrinth, you know, kind of dark children's stories with like wild looking puppets and things. And so I was reading a Fangoria magazine like in my 20s, and I saw 3 ads for schools for special effects. And I was like, you can go to school for that? I absolutely have to do that. So I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, got an industrial design degree specializing in special effects, and have been working in film and television since then. A lot of independent stuff. But since I moved to Atlanta in 2017, joined the union and worked on a lot of union productions as well. But just that the creation of basically movie magic is what I fell in love with. Is, you know, people can be whatever they want, an alien, a creature, you know, these things can exist that don't exist, and that I think is just super cool, especially in, you know, in the real realm, because, you know, I think it's great that you guys do animation, because that is like the ultimate, you can make anything. The parameters that we have to work with you know, practical effects is that I have to figure out a way to make them happen in reality, sometimes augmented with CGI and some animation, especially these days. But when I was growing up, that wasn't an option. Just as an example, for the epic werewolf transformation in Werewolf in London, that was that every piece of that had to actually move on camera, and they made all these different rigs that had elements that had to kind of push and stretch, and all of that had to be done on camera. The alien, the face hugger initially, you know, as it's scrambling across the floor, they had to figure out a thing to put it on. It was like a remote control car, I think, or something like that, and they, you know, had to figure out how to animate that with servos and some kind of mechanisms to kind of get it to go across and do that. And these days, that's not even an option. Like, it's just like, of course, we're going to do that with animation and CGI, because those things are really difficult, and it takes a lot of time to research and develop these elements. But I think there's something special in these old movies that didn't have that crutch. And there was more time on the front end of a film. These days, it's like there's so little prep time in film and television that so much of it does get pushed. You know, it's dependent on the actor's availability and the director's availability, and they may only have an opening, you know, 3 months from now, and you know, they only get it a month prior, and so there's a very limited amount of time that we have to prep on a lot of shows, and so that can be the determining factor as to whether or not it's done digitally or practically, even if practically overall could be cheaper or better in some cases, more physically tangible.
Fascinating, yeah. I especially look back to the case of, like you said earlier, Thing from 1982, one of my favorite movies. And then you can look at The Thing from 2008, where they did have some references to like the practical effects. Like they did have that on set, but it almost over-relied on the CGI, and it ruined the effect. You don't have that visceralness, like that you can actually touch it. And like you said, I think it's really, really important in the modern day to appreciate special effects. Yes, animation always has its place, and you will always have visual effects in almost every aspect of a film. But I think there is a special appreciation for practical effects, especially the ones that you do with the blood, the gore, the real visceral nature of like tactile feeling, that it's hard to accomplish with things that are computer generated or in the modern day, because you don't necessarily, like you said, do you know how uh, how much time you would normally get in the preamble phase versus how much time you get sort of in the modern day, compared to like and how I'm trying to word this is you were discussing, you normally got more time to meet with the director. You normally got more time to prepare for all of the practical effects and to make it cheaper. How does that compare to the modern day, and how have you changed how you make things?
Yeah, well, first of all, the modern thing was even more heartbreaking because they did do everything practically, and then they covered it up digitally. So they actually did it twice for that movie, and most likely made it worse. And so one of the things that it would be really nice to see, and I see it so rarely, is for practical effects and digital effects houses to work together more, and not be competing against each other, and trying to get more of their work kind of overlayered upon that, because if we work together we can make really great stuff. I mean, look at Blade 2, phenomenal. They did most stuff practically, but when it needed to be faster, bigger, like when you have physical things like your nose can't be there, your mouth can't open that wide. These are where CGI and visual effects can be absolutely phenomenally helpful. For example, like with I think on the Dark Crystal, for example, I mean, that one, every bit of everything that you see there had to be made because they basically created this entire world and everything in it. And I think they had a full year to create that, and multiple shops just like making all these different elements. So, but on smaller, less full world designs, I would say, if it wouldn't be unusual to have like 6 months of prep. Then it probably went down to 3, and sometimes it's a month, and you're still scrambling to make things as they're starting to shoot. And it's always a catch-up game. You're thinking to yourself, well, okay, I can push these things until later and keep people working in the shop while we start to shoot. And so it's kind of an overlapping game of chess now, because things might come up and it's just not done, and so sometimes the schedule has to go, or some elements have to go, because it's a rush. And there's just less complicated things can happen, or are possible to happen. And a lot of things, that you do hear it on set, unfortunately, well, we'll have to fix it in post, because we didn't have enough time to plan it in pre.
Mhm. Oh, that's so tough. Oh, what, especially in such a difficult industry for makeup and design in a practical sense in the modern day, what keeps you going? What lights that passion for it every single day when you walk in that studio?
For me, it's the collaborative nature of film that I love the most. It's creating with a team. It's working with the actors. It's kind of bouncing off of other people that I find the most exciting. And then when you have that final moment where you're like, holy shit, it worked. Something goes really well, and you finally shot it, and you can look at it and you can go, we did it. This looks great. Or when you hear, I love it when I hear the director just like basically laugh or squeal with joy, because what they wanted is happening. and that definitely feeds the ego for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Midian. That was amazing
Thank you.
and so insightful into the workings of the modern day special effects industry.
Thank you.
Moving on, again, last but not least, Jordan, Best, where did you get your start and where has that taken you to here?
Hi, greetings and salutations. I got my start when, just having the ideal, I would say, artist childhood. I've been drawing since I was very, very little, never got discouraged from doing it. Even if I did, I didn't even remember because I was getting so heavily encouraged by just the people around me to keep doing it. So and then having the freedom to explore that without having a thinking of, a job or, having a career, just watching cartoons, drawing, playing video games, just being a kid for as long as I possibly could, is how I got my start. And when I got to high school, or when I was deciding to have to go to high school, I found out that I still wanted to do art, but I found out that animation was like a career choice. Like I didn't have to be a doctor. I didn't have to be a lawyer. I didn't have to work at the retail store. I actually draw for a living. So I took my first animation class in, I think, the second year of high school. Yeah. And I carried that through college, got my degree, my BFA in animation. And after the burnout of animating in college, because of just how much we had to do it and, tackling my feelings about it, how feeling like it was too much work and not enough pay for it, not really having the opportunities presented to me to work in the animation industry. I got back into it, booked my first music video with, a smaller independent artist, and just was increasingly, building a relationship back up with it, to where now I feel like I've taken it into new spaces. I've taken animation in the street where I've made animation more accessible for content creators, to, push ideas through animation that you wouldn't really expect to see them in. Like there aren't that many animated YouTube intros. And that's the space that I wanted to really get into.
Nice. That's awesome. And through that, you talked about it, making animation more accessible and how a lot of YouTube intros weren't necessarily animated. What sort of limitations have you found that set people back from using animation in more products?
Honestly, all across the board, it's money. Animation is just a very expensive process. Like it takes a really long time, and to live off of doing animation, it's just so much time for one project. So for me, it was just coming up with ways to simplify the process so that the money that they have to pay for it makes sense for the way that I live. And now with the economy shifting, that has to change again. But even the fact that they see it as something that's attainable, where they didn't see that before. But the problem is always money.
Yeah. Do you see AI especially? I know Martin has talked about using AI, sort of incorporating that into his creative process. And I know it's a very taboo subject, but do you see that as almost a like big no-no, or is that a way of incorporating animation into making it more accessible for people? What are your opinions on that?
Well, I think as long as the final product looks good, like anything, only the most creative people are going to be able to make AI work in a way that doesn't look taboo. Like if you tell me if somebody makes coded work that they've never seen before, you're gonna argue because it's AI. Like, yeah, me personally, I don't feel like I have a use for AI yet in my workflow, but if it looks good, like just go ahead and do it. Like relax.
All right. Awesome. Fantastic. And moving forward past the already discussing doing animated intros, do you have any other shoot for the moon dreams moving forward?
Yeah, I wouldn't even call them the moon. Like I'm working on my first book.
Oh,
It's a book about um, ways to deal with your anger. And it's not a children's book. It's an inner child's book. So it's for the whole family. And then I've been building this iconic character named Jewel. And what I'm trying to do with this character is for him to be like a Mickey Mouse or a Bugs Bunny, how you see them in different spaces. And I've incorporated this character in a lot of projects over the course of my history. And I'm finally putting that story together so that when people finally see the story when it comes out, you can look back and be like, oh, I'm familiar with this guy and really see where this character has been to catch you up to where I'm taking it now.
amazing. Yeah. Thank you guys so much again. I'm going to, would you be all right if I open like the whole panel to ask a few more questions?
Yeah, sure.
I'm good
Yeah,
with it.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. Um, in terms of like core, really, really important things to for everyone to keep in mind. I'd like to just go down the list if anyone has anything to chime in. When it comes to creative industries, um, what are some of the things that people don't pay attention to, but are some of the key parts that keep things running in the industry? In terms of like the amount of man hours it takes to do this thing, or in terms of something that someone wouldn't even think about, but is, like I said, like a linchpin in watching your favorite show or something of the sort.
yeah. For sure. I'll go first on this one, just because I feel like it's a big one. I think people are too focused on skill set when they should be focused on this skill set. Like it's not about the tools you use. It's not about being able to draw. It's not about being able to paint or being able to sculpt. It's about the mindset that you have as an artist because you can apply a mindset to anything. If you don't have paper, you might not be able to draw. If you don't have a hand, you might not be able to draw. But your mind can speak things into existence before you even have a tool or a skill to put it towards. So just work on your mindset.
Amazing.
I want to add on to that. That was dope, Jordan, by the way. That was dope. Mine is not gonna be nowhere near that one. Um, I'm just gonna keep it simple. I want to say I think as a lot of like with the creative process, I think a lot of times we have it where we forget about the actual character development and the actual art of the character. I want to say some of the best anime, some of the best television series, some of the best movies. It's always talking about the actual story development, the development of that character to make you actually see a person or see an actor rather. And it comes from everything working together from behind the scenes, whether it comes from the writing, the directing, the how the wardrobe is, the way they create the mood for this particular character, all of that plays an important part for you to actually see it and be like, if I see this person on the streets, I actually don't like them in real life because they did like the development of that character was just that good. And I don't feel like it's just on one person. It's a overall team. Like it's not just on the writer, it's not just on the director, and it's not just on the actual actor. That wardrobe plays a part. That scoring plays a part. That hairstyle, that doofy hairstyle or whatever for that particular character might have plays a part. So it's like you have to be able to, capture that and know that this whole process is teamwork. So that's why I character development is for me.
Incredible. Incredible.
I feel like a lot of directors, producers will reach out to a special effects artist and just give like a list of effects and want an estimate. And practical special effects, there is like at least 15 different ways to do one thing, and it's going to be dependent a lot on how much time we have to prep, how much time we have to shoot, and what their budget is. And so just shooting in the dark is a really difficult thing to do for an estimate like that. So conversations are really necessary. And beyond that, there's an element of connection that we miss there. That collaboration, that beautiful collaboration that I was talking about, sometimes it can get thrown in the garbage because personalities just don't mesh. And without having a conversation, without talking to people before just looking at a bunch of estimates and just picking the lowest one or picking the middle one is kind of I think a very poor way to choose your effects artist, one of your primary team members. So I think I see a lot of that these days. It's just kind of like this, hurry up, just give me an estimate. What do you think it'll cost? Because that's the most important thing. Well, if that's the most important thing, tell me how much you have, and I'll tell you what style of creation we can do for that. It's all very malleable, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. But conversations need to happen. So I think that's an element I'd like to see more of.
Fascinating, amazing. And could I work off of that and actually ask you, do you think in this modern setting where everything's on Zoom, do you find that communication more difficult or easier?
I think in person, I mean, I'm an in-person person. I definitely like in person. I think that Zoom, honestly, if we're not in the same room and we can't be in the same room, I'd prefer to have a phone call first so that we can not be worried about like the technology glitches and like, how our hair looks or our background looks and, all that other stuff. And we can actually just talk. And then maybe the second or third meeting, we're going through stuff and we're meeting kind of, more visually. I think there's kind of a weirdness factor that is involved in Zoom that's not quite in person, and maybe even sometimes less than a phone call in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in person is always best.
Yeah, I think so as well. It was very cool to hear your thoughts on that, though. And anybody else have any thoughts on a linchpin in the creative process? Chris?
You put me on the spot. I was trying to think of one the whole time. I maybe I would say, I don't know, maybe story, just and kind of like what everyone was kind of sort of, touching on. I feel like just in general, just, I think it comes down to, like understanding like what you're making and understanding, the 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 character and understanding the direction, the pacing, the tone, the theme. I think it kind of all boils down, for me, I think it boils down to the story, and that kind of drives and dictates what that film or TV show or video game or whatever that may be. All these different mediums and genres you can kind of play with. I think it all boils down to story and character. I do feel like that kind of drives what that is, and having someone to be able to articulate that, and again with that collaboration, with people on your team. I think that's something that I've kind of had to work on as a lead, because I'm not a talker at all, so that I will say that. But that's something I kind of had to work on, and understanding it, because we don't really deal with story per se, but I think that does sort of kind of drive my mindset of like what I'm creating. If I'm, creating a, it could be a, Egyptian, type of game or something like that. But, but like the types of symbols and architecture and and the even the characters that we do create and develop, and to the animation and like with the features and all that, like in my head I'm like, okay, it has to make sense to me to kind of like understand like what we're doing, and people will tell you at times like, oh, Bivins, he's great, we love him, but I can get a little a little kooky if I feel like things aren't like exactly the way I feel like it should be, like, well, it doesn't make sense to me, so why are we even doing this, so yeah, that's probably what I would say. Yeah, story.
Absolutely. And gaining the story from yourself, putting it into the
Yeah,
project.
yeah. And I just noticed my thing keeps saying, like, I thought I changed my name on here, but it keeps my wife's name keeps popping up on this account. But I do apologize. My name is Chris Bivins, not, not Clarissa.
I figured.
Yeah.
And
Just
then
in case anyone
Martin,
was confused. Yeah.
yeah. I'll leave it off to you. We have about 5 minutes left before we're going to open up questions to the audience. But for now, what are your final notes?
Um, yeah, like Chris, I'm kind of I'm stuck trying to figure one out. But I think what came to my mind was teamwork and communication, not
Mhm.
necessarily like whether you're on Zoom or phone call, but like whether you can have a conversation. Not, if you can give direction, receive direction. If the person that you're on a team with, you mesh with them, or, kind of like the interpersonal relationship you have with the person that you're working with. Because sometimes I think not putting the right people together can make something go worse than, make something, crash and burn rather than, so that's what I would say. I would say teamwork and communication. I guess that might be, one thing, but or maybe it's two. I don't know.
Honestly, I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for your words. We're gonna open up some questions to the audience. If anyone watching today has any questions they want to put into the chat, please again be respectful and be professional with what you ask. But if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please let us know. As we just wait for them to pull in.
I was gonna say I did see a question earlier about animation. I saw Martin and Ryan answered just about what software would they suggest for a beginner. At least from my experience, at least with digital art, I would say, and kind of leading into illustration and animation, and even some 3D. I did a little bit of 3D like early on in my career. Um, for me, Photoshop is how I learned digital art. I know Adobe is kind of you know they're they're kind of like enemy number one right now a little bit, but but that's what I learned, so that's kind of like any software that I use, I kind of use that as like the standard. I will say Clip Studio for me personally I think is really good as far as I think the learning curve is just a little higher than Photoshop, I will say. I do feel like Photoshop is very streamlined, and I think the user interface is very well put together. And I feel like any other software that's out there from a professional standpoint, I do feel like Clip is probably the closest. I think their drawing tools are a lot better. There's some stability issues I think I still kind of encounter, and there's some wonky things like with their animation timeline and stuff. But yeah, I would say Photoshop, because it is still the industry standard. But it's not like the end all be all. But I do feel like Clip is pretty good for at least for 2D animation. Because Photoshop sucks with animation. And Flash or whatever they want to call themselves nowadays.
Animate.
I can't, yeah, animate. Yeah, I've never really liked Flash. I've never liked Flash. But in Toon Boom, their Storyboard Pro, or Toon Boom Harmony is what they're called now. They used to be called Animate
I call them
too.
expensive.
Yeah, they're super expensive. Yeah, I have a Storyboard Pro account now, and I pay a monthly fee. I would rather just pay the whatever absorbent amount that they want you to charge for a perpetual license and just be done with it. But it's yeah, I guess $75 a month is what I'm dealing with. But but yeah, but Clip Studio, if you just want to just get the one perpetual version of that software, that's it. And then I think it has all the drawing tools and brushes and any and everything that you would need that Photoshop does. I think I honestly think it's it should be the gold standard, I feel like. But yeah.
Fantastic.
Somebody asks, is it okay to pirate Adobe? If this was 2005, I'd say go for it.
Look, I was gonna say, yeah.
I will
You know?
always recommend stealing from Adobe.
You wouldn't pirate a car.
I did
But
see
now,
somebody ask, they said, for practice purposes, okay. I mean, no, not that one. My bad. The one, uh, as far as pursuing a job in animation, I would say, man, I mean, as far as for me, I get a lot of my work from clients, from clientele base. Uh, Try not to focus so hard on trying to like go and get a job, and try not to focus so hard to get a job, rather just actually create and put your work out there, so you can be actually have your own creative control, so that you won't be somewhat limited. I know you're gonna have to, I know you're gonna want to eat or whatever, but like, I mean, that's when it started coming in, and you're gonna like, you gotta look at it a different way. You might have to do something that's gonna fund,
you
you
might want
know.
to eat. I don't know.
You gotta have to, but it's like you gotta fund it some kind of way until you get like that portfolio, that portfolio. So that, like I say again, I believe in the whole, if I'm hired, I have more free creative control versus someone having me structured, be more structured. So if you're looking to make a solid career off of it, I'm just gonna say that's just me. Everybody else have their own own opinion on it. For
True.
me, I say definitely start making work, create your portfolio so that people will try to approach you versus you being so gun ho approaching them.
Yeah, I'll jump right on that because like I started my career just making stuff on the internet, but I would absolutely say, especially like now, social media, and because of social media and the way the industries, all industries are changing because of the internet and because of AI. Even with AI, like you can like posting on Instagram, posting on TikTok, like people are making money just sharing their like we gonna use that bad word content. Like people are just posting their content. Like this even goes outside of animation, but like posting the things that you make on social media is probably the biggest like that's like the new industry right there because it's getting harder to find work. So like honestly, like social media is kind of like that's the bag right there. And it's, if you can learn how to manipulate sounds bad, but like people are like going crazy on social media and like making like sometimes it doesn't even have to be that good. If I had did what I was doing, the garbage that I was making 10 years ago, making it now, I'd probably be doing a lot better. But I think there's just this the way social media is building brands and building businesses for people Like that guy who this is nothing to do with animation. The guy who with them signs, the Asian guy, he just makes the signs. He does all the impersonations, and he's selling mad signs. But it's just he built it off of social media. So I think that's probably the best advice anybody that's coming out of school. F a job, go jump on social media, do your thing.
I'm gonna explain what I wasn't explained to when I was studying animation in high school and in college is that when you are working in animation, you don't have a job. If you're an artist, you don't have a job. You have a short-term gig. When as long as that show is in production, you have a job. But as soon as that show is out of production, you have to hope and pray that your work can translate to the next show or you're out of work. If you want a job in animation, look for studio positions like maintenance man. Maybe you want to be a compositor. Maybe you want to help run the studio manager, like an editor or something, but nothing where you have to draw because you won't have a job.
I like how you started off with saying just straight out the back, like it's gonna be maintenance, man. Like you just literally started like with nothing
Seriously.
outside of like what you but it's I mean, I guess I love that's why I say I love it because I mean I understand like it's realistic, putting it out there like it's and for anybody that is listening, it's not to shoot or shut down, your what you feel that you're gonna do is just the ugly truth that it's great when you create something and you get paid for what you're doing. You're getting paid for what you love doing. But the reality of it is, it's gonna be some trial and error. It's gonna be you're gonna have to fight for it. It's positions out there and you got people out there that are really hungry. And if you're someone that has to go and do everything like me, I'm probably I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I didn't go to college. Like I didn't I went to YouTube University. And I learned from just meeting people and grabbing a coattail of different mentors and saying, hey, how to do this from learning from camera to from drawing to everything about it. I just learned from different people and sat down those late nights, early mornings, going to work, before I go to work, the whole nine. But when I didn't have a car, riding the bus, riding the train, I'm reading books, I'm doing sketches, I'm doing the whole nine to learn how to do this. So that's why I say I love what you said there which is, hey man, you gotta when you want this, it really is a how bad do you want it, and it's gonna be rough, but you can make it. I think I never doubt that anybody can make it. I feel like it is a chance, but also not only is it a chance, it's also going to talk about your work ethic and your heart, how much you love the game.
One of the things that I've seen, I'm a harp on social media, F a job. But one of the things that I saw was like even and this is an anime. You'll find a lot of people that want to get into anime, they'll start animating on social, and then like I think Twitter has a really big like anime and like anime studio like um community on there. So a lot of people will just start animating scenes and shots, like showing off their skills on how they can animate. And then, like what you see like Cowboy Bebop or like, all these shows that like have all of these like if you've ever seen like a like the before they color it in, like the pencil lines, the pencil work and all of that stuff, like people are going in on just like those simple no, they not simple, but like they go in and people are getting hired from studios based on the stuff they're posting on social. So I mean, like if you want to get a studio job, sometimes you could like a lot of the time a lot of people just go on Twitter and just start animating stuff. So like even if you wanted a studio job, social media is probably like the way to get there, as opposed to like let me build my portfolio and apply on careerbuilder.com. Like that's probably like the 2015 way to get a job. So yeah, post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, post it on TikTok. TikTok is like, if you want to get into music too, don't get me started. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Moving on from that, I can also say that there's a guy named Alfonso M.O. He made the Astartes series, which is this like Warhammer 40K animated series on YouTube, and he used that to actually get into Amazon Prime. The Next Level series, he was a producer on that, making his own short for an Amazon Prime show just based off of the animations he posted onto YouTube. So if you think, oh yeah, I'm just doing a small project, like it's not a big deal. No, if you can do it, if you can put the time into it, you really can make something happen. And I really appreciate you guys, but talking about the animation, but if I can move on just slightly to Midian, could you talk about how to get into the makeup and effects artistry from college as well?
Sure. I definitely would not recommend college for that today. It's super overpriced. There are some smaller schools that are pretty good still. But I think the most valuable way anybody can get into this, because makeup and makeup effects is such a who you know, and kind of a tight bubble. It's very hard to meet these people. It's very hard to get to know them. The best way to learn and get involved is to take, first of all, if you live in an area where they have some kind of film, that helps. If you're in Atlanta, if you're in LA, if you're in Chicago, if you're in New York, those are all better places to be for this. But they do have opportunities. There's student films, there's different things everywhere. But if you can take a class from a working professional, most of them do have classes that they teach when they're not working on projects. That is, I think, the best way to get in, because that person's then going to be able to remember you, be able to know what your work ethic is like. So it's not just about what you can do and what your portfolio is. It's about your personality. It's about, being able to stand working with you for a 17-hour day. And that kind of motivated, learn anything, try anything attitude that can really see you through. And it can be really hard for a lot of artists, because they tend to be a little bit more introverted, and we don't meet enough people to really kind of become successful in art. And so getting out there, meeting people, and don't just push yourself onto somebody else. Have an interest in what they do, and that will open them up to be able to help you in more ways than they get bombarded with, hey, can I shadow you for a day? Can I work in your shop? Can I sweep your floor? Like that's great, but let's actually connect as human beings first. And I think that's probably that's the advice I would have. It's not the advice I took. I had somebody say, come work in my shop, and don't go to school, you waste your money. And I didn't take him up on that. Sometimes I wish I had, but I also really loved school, and it was a great environment for me. But the education first of all, the Art Institute is gone, so that's not even an option. But for what I got, over 20 years ago, it ballooned to close to $100,000, and you don't really know if you're really going to want to work in this industry until you're in this industry. So it's very important not to waste a ton of money before you do it. That would be my recommendation.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for being here. Midian, Martin, Chris, Jordan, Ryan, all of you. You've been absolutely amazing to have. I'll leave it off to Aldea to sort of send us off here. But for now, I cannot tell you how much it has been a pleasure to speak with all of you. You've all had such wonderful thoughts and have been so wonderful to hear some. So thank you so much.
Hello, thank you for that back. I want to give a huge thank you to our panelists and Ben for moderating. Thank you for all who attend. This was a great turnout, and thanks for asking such great questions. If you were here at the beginning, we sincerely apologize for the spam, and we are going to take steps in the future to kind of mitigate that and have more security as far as who can have access to our screen. Up next is our annual awards in New York City from October 16th to 19th. We have networking, screenings, more panels, and you can still submit for that until the 12th. So make sure to follow us on Instagram for latest updates. And if you're a panelist, you can stay behind for a minute and we'll wrap up with you guys, and we'll catch the rest of you at our next future events. And make sure to check out the website for those too. So thank you all for joining us.